Jaya Radha Madhava Kunja Bihari. Jaya Radha Madhava Kunja Bihari. Jaya Radha Madhava Kunja Bihari. Gopijana Vallabha Girivardhari. Gopijana Vallabha Girivardhari. Gopijana Vallabha Girivardhari. Yasodanandana Brajajana Ranjana. Yasodanandana Brajajana Ranjana. Yasodanandana Brajajana Ranjana. Yasodanandana Brajajana Ranjana. Yamuna Tira Vanachari. Yamuna Tira Vanachari. Jaya Radha Madhava Kunja Bihari. Jaya Radha Madhava Kunja Bihari. Gopijana Vallabha Girivardhari. Gopijana Vallabha Girivardhari. Yasodanandana Brajajana Ranjana. Yasodanandana Brajajana Ranjana. Yamuna Tira Vanachari. Yamuna Tira Vanachari. Jaya Radha Madhava Kunja Bihari. Jaya Radha Girari Radha Girari Radhe. Prabhupada, 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 Prabhupada. Srila Prabhupada ke. Sham Vishpad Paramahamsa Prabhajikacharya Sotara Sata Shishimade Si Bhakti Vedanta Swami Maharaj Srila Prabhupada Ki Jai. ISKCON founder Acharya Jagat Guru Srila Prabhupada Ki Jai. I need a book, Prabhu. Jayam Vishpad Paramahamsa Prabhajikacharya Sotara Sata Shishimad Bhakti Siddhanta Saraswati Goswami Maharaj Prabhupada Ki Jai. Jayam Vishpad Paramahamsa Srila Gaur Kishore Das Babaji Maharaj Ki Jai. Jayam Vishpad Paramahamsa Srila Satchit Ananda Bhakti Vinod Thakur Ki Jai. Jayam Vishpad Paramahamsa Srila Vaishnava Sarvabhauma Jagannath Das Babaji Maharaj Ki Jai. Ananta Koti Vaishnava Vrindi Ki Jai. Namacharya Shri Haridas Thakur Ki Jai. Jai Rupa Sanatan Bhatta Raghunath Shri Jiva Gopal Bhatta Dasa Raghunath Sad Goswami Prabhugan Ki Jai. Prem Se Kaho Sri Krishna Chaitanya Prabhu Nityananda Shri Advaita Gadadhar Sivasadi Gaur Bhakta Vrinda Ki Jai. Shri Shri Radha Krishna Gopa Gopinath Shamakun Radhakun Giri Govardhana Ki Jai. Grantaraj Srimad Bhagavatam Ki Jai. Samaveda Gaura Bhakta Vrinda Ki Jai. Gaur Premanandi. Our glories to the assembled devotees. Our glories to the assembled devotees. Our glories to the assembled devotees. Our glories to Shishi Guru and Gauranga. Glories to Srila Prabhupada. Om Namo Bhagavate Vasudevaya. Om Namo Bhagavate Vasudevaya. Om Namo Bhagavate Vasudevaya. We're getting to hear from Srimad Bhagavatam, Canto 5, Chapter 1, Activities of Maharaj Priyavrata. Text number 19. Last instruction from Lord Brahma to Priyavrata. Tvam tu abja nabhangri saroja kosha tam tvabja nabhangri saroja kosha durgashrito nirjita shat sapatna durgashito nirjita shat sapatna pungshreha bhogan purushati dishtan pungshreha bhogan purushati dishtan vimukta Sangha Prakritim Bhajasva Vimukta Sangha Prakritim Bhajasva Tam Tabjana Bhangri Saroja Kosha Durgashito Nirjita Durgashito Nirjita Shat Sapatna Pungshveha Bhogan Purushati Dishtan Vimukta Sangha Prakritim Bhajasva Tam Tvabjana Bhagri Saroja Kosha Durgashito Nirjita Shat Sapatna Pungshveha Bhogan Purushati Dishtan Vimukta Sangha Prakritim Bhajasva Tvam, yourself. Two, then, Abjanaba, of the Supreme Personality of Godhead, whose navel is like a lotus flower. Angri, feet. Saroja, lotus. Kosha, hole. Durga, the stronghold. Ashritaha, taking shelter of. Nirjita, conquered. Shatsapatnaha, the six enemies, the mind and five senses. Bhungshva, enjoy. Iha, in this material world. Bhogan, enjoyable things. Purusha, by the Supreme Person. Atidishtan, extraordinarily ordered. Vimukta, liberated. Sangha, from material association. Prakritim, constitutional position. Bhavashva, enjoy. Lord Brahma continued, my dear Priyavrata, seek shelter inside the opening in the lotus feet of the Lord, whose navel is also like a lotus. Thus conquer the six organs, mind and knowledge acquiring senses. Accept material enjoyment, because the Lord extraordinarily has ordered you to do this. You will thus always be liberated from material association and be able to carry out the Lord's orders in your constitutional position. Purport by His Divine Grace, A.C. Bhaktivedanta Swami Srila Prabhupada. There are three kinds of men within this material world. Those who are trying to enjoy the senses to the utmost are called karmis. Above them are the gyanis, who try to conquer the urges of the senses. And above them are the yogis, who have already conquered the senses. None of them, however, are situated in a transcendental position. Only devotees who belong to none of the above-mentioned groups are transcendental. As explained in Bhagavad Gita 14:26, Mamchiya vibacharena bhakti yogena sevate sagunan samati chaitan brahmabhuyaya kopate. One who engages in full devotional service, who does not fall down in any circumstance, at once transcends the modes of material nature and thus comes to the level of Brahman. End quote. Lord Brahma herein advises Priyavrata to remain transcendental in the fortress, not of family life, but of the lotus feet of the Lord. Abjan abhangri sarojaha. When a bumblebee enters the opening of a lotus flower and drinks its honey, it's fully protected by the petals of the lotus. The bee is undisturbed by sunshine and other external influences. Similarly, one who always seeks shelter at the lotus feet of the personality of Godhead is protected from all dangers. It is therefore said in Srimad Bhagavatam 10:14-58, Samashrita ye palapalava pavam mahatpadam punya yasho marare pavam budir vatsa padam param padam 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 yat vipadam natesham For one who's taken shelter, the lotus feet of the Lord, everything becomes easier. Indeed, even crossing the great ocean in essence, Bhavam Buddhi, is exactly like crossing the hoof print created by a calf, Vatsapadam. For such a devotee, there's no question of remaining in a place where every step is dangerous. Our actual duty is to carry out the supreme order of the personality of Godhead. If we're fixed in our determination to carry out the supreme order of the Lord, we are always secure, regardless of where we're situated, whether in hell or in heaven. Herein the words Prakritim Babashva are very significant. Prakritim refers to one's constitutional position. Every living entity has the constitutional position of being an eternal servant of God. Therefore, Lord Brahma advised Priyavrata, be situated in your original position as an eternal servant of the Lord. If you carry out His orders, you will never fall, even in the midst of material enjoyment. Material enjoyment achieved by dint of one's fruitive activities differs from material enjoyment given by the Supreme Personality of Godhead. A devotee sometimes appears to be in a very opulent position, but he accepts that position to follow the orders of the Supreme Personality of Godhead. Therefore, a devotee is never affected by material influences. The devotees in the Krishna conscious movement are preaching all over the world in accordance with the order of Sri Chaitanya Mahaprabhu. They have to meet many karmis, but by the mercy of Sri Chaitanya Mahaprabhu, they are unaffected by material influences. He has blessed them, as described in the Chaitanya Charitamrita, Madhya Lila 7:129. Kabuna badi be tomara vishaya taranga paranapietani pabamora sange. A sincere devotee who engages in the service of Lord Sri Chaitanya Mahaprabhu by preaching his cult all over the world will never be affected by vishaya taranga, material influences. On the contrary, in due course of time, he will return to the shelter of the lotus feet of Lord Sri Chaitanya Mahaprabhu and will thus have perpetual association with him. Haribo. Om Jnanatimidandasya Gyananjana Salakya Chakshur Militam Yena Tasmai Shri Gurave Namaha Shri Chaitanya Manobhishtam Stapitam Yena Bhutale Swam Rupa Kadamayam Dadati Swapadandikam Vandeham Shri Guru Shita Padakamalam Shri Gurun Vaishnavam Scha Shri Rupam Sagrajatam Sahagana Raghunathan Vitam Tam Sajivam Sadvaitam Savadutam Parijana Saitam Krishna Chaitanya Devam Shri Radha Krishna Padam Sahagana Lalita Shri Vishakan Vitamscha. Hey Krishna Karuna Sindho Dina Bandho Jagatpate Gopesha Gopika Kanta Radha Kanta Namostate Tapta Kanchana Gaurange Radhe Vrindavanishari Vishabhana Sutta Devi Pranamami Hari Priye Vanchakopa Turubhyascha Kripa Sindhu Bhivacha Patitanam Bhavanebhyo Vaishnavebhyo Namo Namaha. Jai Shri Krishna Chaitanya Prabhu Nityananda Shri Advaita Gadadhar Shivasati Gaur Bhakta Vrinda. Hare Krishna, Krishna Krishna, Hare Hare, Hare Rama, Rama Rama, Hare Hare. So we have this material disease of wanting to compete with the Lord, having been placed into material existence under the influence of Maya. We're always desiring that which is inauspicious and the cause of our sufferings. Priyavrata Prabhu Maharaj, he's in his constitutional position. He doesn't have such a problem. He's been cured of the disease by the mercy, the instructions of his spiritual master, Narada Muni. And now we know, as the story has been told many a time, Lord Brahma has come to help him shift gears and to take on new service. And even though it was the last thing he had within his mind, he had no desire whatsoever to engage in such activities, he gracefully, submissively accepted the instructions given by Lord Brahma, knowing that this is what God, Krishna, wanted him to do. This is the secret of success in spiritual life. The karmis, the gyanis, the yogis, they're all trying so hard to be peaceful, to be happy. But as we know, as Lord Caitanya spoke to Rupa Goswami, Krishna Bhakta Nishkama Ataiva Shanta Bhukti Mukti Siddhikami Sakala Ashanta. Because the devotee of Lord Krishna is desireless, he's peaceful. Fruitive workers desire material enjoyment, jnanis desire liberation, and yogis desire material opulence. Therefore, they're all lusty and cannot be peaceful. When one does not have the lotus feet of the Lord as the goal in one's life, the service to the lotus feet of Krishna through the medium of the spiritual master and the disciplic succession, then the mind can never be peaceful because there's no goal. It's just like with these silly lockdowns, the moving, how do they call it? Goal, finish line. Now, when will it end? In the same way, chasing after sense gratification, when will it end? It doesn't. Maharaj so very nicely quoted the verse from the Bhagavad Gita. No matter how much fire you throw on the fire, it'll never be satisfied. It'll continue to burn. It gets more and more momentum. And that's what we've found ourselves in this material world since time immemorial, just going deeper and deeper, sometimes up, sometimes down, suffering the results of the activities of sense gratification. Even that which the karmis strive so hard for, happiness, even when you get a taste of it, you get some reprieve in your suffering. Like devotees asked, oh, how's your back today? Well, it's a little better. I mean, that, when you wake up and it's like, wow, I can actually sit up and there isn't that stab. It's like, wow, that's nice. Dial it back a day. Taking shelter in sleep because there was no pain in sleep. It's like this happiness which we covet in conditioned life is our worst enemy. It's our worst enemy. Because it is like the dangling carrot that gives some hope to the conditioned soul. Yeah, I can catch it. I can be happy. I can become satisfied. But it doesn't happen. It never happens for anyone, from Lord Brahma to the lowest microbe, germ. No one has ever been happy in this material world outside of surrendering to and serving the lotus feet of Krishna. I had a godbrother when I lived in Vrindavan in the late 70s. And he always asked the question, practically speaking, the same question after Srimad Bhagavatam, trying to find some loophole in our philosophy where we could enjoy sense gratification and become Krishna conscious. I won't mention his name, but he has gone back to Godhead. Glorious servant of Srila Prabhupada. And it was so comical. I guess he didn't see this verse. Holy smokes! Extraordinarily, the Lord is ordering you. Enjoy material happiness. closest we came during that time period was, I think it's Puru, who was cursed by Shukracharya, and he asked his sons, please take my old age. And all the sons were thinking about their sense gratification. No. So he cursed them all, or he certainly didn't bless them. Then he came to Yadu, and Yadu had scriptural reference and reasons why he didn't want to prematurely take to old age, because he hadn't taken the gradual process of purification of brahmacharya, grahastha, vanaprastha, etc. And he thought that he would lose the opportunity of purification to achieve complete surrender to Krishna. So that was kind of the closest he got to hearing, oh, you can have sense gratification. But it's like night and day. You know, dogs can hear things we can't hear. What would be an example? Cats. They can see subtle beings. We don't see them generally. You could give other examples. But the devotee in his constitutional position sees things differently than we do. Life and his experience of even material enjoyment is not our concept or experience. The functions of eating, sleeping, of the mind, and, of the senses, and of thinking, feeling, willing, desiring, the activities of the mind, these are not us. These are actually dead elements, only apparently animated and alive because we are encased by them and identifying with them. But one in the constitutional position of Krishna consciousness, he doesn't identify with the mind. He doesn't identify with the demands of the senses. Constant demand of the senses. In fact, Rishabdev, he gives the example, it's like a wild animal. What do you do with a wild animal? You catch it and you put it in a cage to protect yourself so it can't harm anybody. The rascal mind is meant simply to be engaged in service of the Lord. Otherwise, you open the cage door just a little bit. Even on the royal road of regulated activities in Vaidhi Bhakti, there's chance of falling victim to material energy. So the solution obviously is full engagement in devotional service. Mamsyo vivicharena bhakti yogena sevate sagunan samatitaitan brahma bhuyaya kalpate. Under all circumstances, one engages in Krishna's service. There are no, how does it say? Does not fall down under any circumstances. Constant engagement. And this is only possible by surrender to the servant of Krishna and learning the art and science of service to Krishna. I've seen, I've touched, I've tried to worship the lotus feet of the Archa Vigraha, incarnation of the Lord on the altar. And it's very purifying. Pada sevanam, very purifying. But the realization of one in their constitutional position who has realized the lotus feet of the Lord, the lotus navel of the Lord, the lotus face of the Lord, the smile of the Lord. It is worlds. There's a world of difference. Once having tasted it, even just for a split moment, bhava matra, one will never be able to forget. And one will constantly endeavor to have the shelter and the service of the lotus feet of the Lord. lotus feet of the Lord has a blackish complexion, and the soles of the Lord's feet are pinkish, like lotuses. And another very important reason they're compared to lotuses was given in the purport. That when a bee goes to get the nectar of the lotus flower, all those little tiny yellow stamens in the pink center of the lotus flower, and there's so many petals of the lotus, and being inside there drinking the nectar, it's protected from the scorching sun or any other outside elements. It's safe, it's secure, it can become quite content inside. And that, of course, is an analogy of once you get the shelter, the service of the Lord's feet, there is no more scorching miseries of this body or mind, of other living entities, of the external forces of nature. They can't touch the devotee. The spirit soul can't be withered by wind, scorched by fire, cut by weapon, moistened by water. We're not of this world. As I was saying, the realization of the exalted Vaishnavas like Priyavrata is there's a world of difference in their realization and the sadhaka bhaktas who are still engaged in the process of following Guru's orders and praying for purification and steadiness in following Guru's orders. So, not having the realization of the lotus feet of the Lord, just as we sing every morning, the lotus feet of the spiritual master are just as secure and just as necessary. They are absolutely necessary if one wants to take to devotional service, to learn the service of the Lord. Even when one becomes God realized, one will not give up the service of their spiritual master. They will be able to personally serve the Lord, but they will never leave aside thinking, no longer do I need the guidance, the mercy of my spiritual master. And this should be the mood of every disciple, every aspiring disciple for the spiritual master, entering into the relationship of servant and master. And there are different levels of gurus in terms of realization. We would be foolish not to understand that. That's the teachings Prabhupada has shared with us. Some have attained the lotus feet of the Lord, realizing and serving continually. Others have not. To be guru, they're continually serving, having realized the shelter and the nectar of the lotus feet of the spiritual master. But that surrendering process and that acceptance of the spiritual master, a bona fide spiritual master, is the way in which Krishna is pleased. Guru's pleased. The previous acharyas are pleased. It's the only way in which we can make advancement. Now, if the Guru hasn't realized the lotus feet of the Lord, he can't give you those lotus feet. But he can give you the shelter of the spiritual master who has realized the lotus feet of the Lord. There is no loss or diminution. Everything is covered in Krishna consciousness. And full surrender is the necessary contribution or participation in the process on our part. If we consider the spiritual master an ordinary person, then there's no hope for one. you will become filled with offenses and material desires. Any devotee, Kanishna, Madhyama, Uttama, they are not ordinary. They're servants of the Lord. They're all magnanimous. What to speak of one who has received the calling and been deputed by his spiritual master from within the heart. He hears the need. He knows the spiritual master wants him to step forward and take up this service of spreading Krishna consciousness. From whatever platform one might be on, if you give it your all and you give it your best, you can be secure in the reality that material nature has been pulled back and being held. In my mind, I'm thinking of like this pit bulldog wanting to jump upon us and attack us. But the spiritual master, by his prayers to the Lord, that pit bull is being held by the collar and is not allowed to attack. The devotee, Mamevaye Prapajante Mayam Tatamstan Rantite. We're secure. Mahasuchaha, don't worry. Go all over the world even. Associate with unlimited karmis, gyanis, yogis, scientists, philosophers, this and that. And you should be unaffected. You will be protected. Keep up your end of the contract and your constant exhibition of sincerity and seriousness of purpose. No problem. The Lord will take care of us. The spiritual master's prayers. Srila Prabhupada always prayed for his disciples not to fall down into Maya. He was always praying to Krishna, please protect us. As he does you. For you. That's the whole point of Guru Puja every morning. Srila Prabhupada wanted that everybody in this movement, no matter how many years down the road, he wanted everyone to realize that I'm here for you. My instructions are here for you. They're being repeated by my followers and servants. And if you'll take advantage of them, the same promise I made to my disciples is extended to you through the disciplic succession. So just as Priyavrata embraces the instructions given to him by Lord Brahma, understanding them to be the desire of the Lord, if we can understand the reality that Krishna is God and I am his eternal servant, therefore what other alternative do I have than to engage in and share Krishna consciousness? If we embrace this and stick to it, then it ends up just like every other devotee that takes to the process. Bhavam buddhir vatsa padam param padam 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 yat vipadam natesham. We don't belong here in this world of suffering. You want to hear something comical? You know, my back's healing up, it's a little bit of relief and what have you. The rib is in place, and so then my knee goes out. Saturday afternoon, my knee goes out. You've seen me hobble around before when that happens. And I'm thinking, oh, Krishna, you're driving the point home. I'm getting it. This material world, this material body, it's a place of misery, and the body's a source of misery. It's the instrumentality for it to affect the attached consciousness, even of the aspiring devotee. So I prayed and I did what I thought I should and what have you. And by Krishna's grace, the next morning it's back in, and life goes on. He's only going to give us what we need to learn and understand, and will give us the ability to tolerate and to advance because of understanding his point, the lesson involved. Krishna consciousness is so wonderful in this way. My goodness. That which is being chased after by these others, sense gratification or relief from the miseries by merging into Brahman and liberation, or mystic cities, meditating on God in the heart, etc. Nothing compared to the ocean of the nectar of service to Krishna's lotus feet via the medium of the spiritual masters. So, as long as we continue to have kirtans like we had this morning, Klim Chaitanyaya Vidnahe Pushpabanaya, how's it? No, not that one. Klim Chaitanyaya Vidnahe Vishrambaraya. Lord Caitanya is nourishing this universe. And what is he nourishing the universe with? The holy names that we were hearing and chanting and dancing in service to. The holy names are everything. The love that he's come to garland us with is in the names. And if we keep enthusiastically throwing our everything into the service of hearing, chanting, glorifying the Lord, sharing it with others, time comes when it's revealed, and certainly as a byproduct, we'll get out of this hellhole. And in the meantime, whether we're in heaven, in hell, a little abeyance of the misery, or we're in the thick of the misery, it doesn't matter. Just keep chanting. Hare Krishna, Krishna Krishna, Hare Hare, Hare Rama, Rama Rama, Hare Hare. Any contributions or questions?
From my editing service. There's a slight difference here. The translation we have for Mamchiyova Vicharya, which you read in the purport, taken from the Bhagavad Gita as it is, 1972 edition. One who engages in full devotional service, who does not fall down in any circumstance, at once transcends the modes of material nature and thus comes to the level of Brahman. What Prabhupada said, which is, one engaged in full devotional service, unfailing in any circumstance.
Positive, not negative.
Yeah, and it's referring to the devotional service, that the devotional service never fails, and you, of course, don't fail with it like that. But that's the...
Gosh, that's so important.
That's actually probably...
Because even if one does fall down, if they're continually engaging in devotional service, there's no obstruction to the devotee's progress. Anyone who thinks otherwise, it will take some time for them to become righteous and understand things as they are. Thank you, Dravida. You always add such nice. This translation of Samasritaye Padapalapo, I looked it up in the 10th canto. It's in the 14th chapter, Lord Brahma's prayers. Had Srila Prabhupada finished giving purports at this point? That's what I thought, because it was stated in that purport that this translation is being taken from, no, actually, Bhagavad Gita, text number 51 of the 2nd chapter. So Srila Prabhupada quotes it in this verse, by thus engaging devotional service to the Lord, great sages or devotees free themselves from the results of work in the material world. In this way they become free from the cycle of birth and death. and attain the state beyond all miseries by going back to Godhead. So you can see it's the same idea encapsulated. And so that purport is where they took the translation for it. What a wonderful verse. Yes. Ananda Kirtan Prabhu.
Service.
There you go. Repeat.
The last paragraph, a sincere devotee who engages in the service of Sri Chaitanya Mahaprabhu by preaching his cult all over the world will never be affected by Vishaya Turanga, material influences. So I was wondering if you can give me some advice, because I feel like I've dedicated, quite a few years to trying to follow the order of Sri Chaitanya Mahaprabhu by spreading his movement. But after a while, I feel like I do become affected by material influences, and then I try to contemplate. Okay, what am I doing anything wrong? I'm trying to chant attentively. I'm reading every day. I'm trying to not make offenses to the Vaishnavas. But why am I still becoming affected by material influences sometimes?
I one time asked Janani Vas, I'm practicing devotional service, but it just seems like I'm not making any advancement. And he said, then it means you're doing something wrong. And that's why we need guidance beyond just our own intelligence in the practice of Krishna consciousness. If you're taking seriously, as you share you are, then you ask an authority you trust and who cares about you, presenting your situation. Because those who are more advanced, they can see. They've been there. We all go through it. It's the same human experience and surrendering process of Krishna consciousness. So sometimes our thoughts of fully engaging are far short in reality from fully engaging. And you got to understand, it's not just the external participation. The mind and its desires, they're always coming about. Yamunacharya is praying whenever I think of sex life. My goodness, he's an exalted Mahabhagavat. But he says sometimes, Prabhupada says, as long as you have the material body, there can be the material desire surfacing. Because we've got such an arsenal, stockpile since time immemorial. Oh my gosh. But one name, one full surrender. And basically, introspectively, you can understand that you just have to keep on going, because I haven't come to the realized stage of Krishna consciousness. I'm not truly at full engagement without any interruption or possibly lack of motivation besides service to Krishna. When one develops the taste, when one has become steady, and the higher levels are there, and once you've gone beyond that, chanting purely, no longer offending the name, or in the clearing process of chanting the names, it's a whole other ball game. Tests become more and more subtle, and one continually becomes more humble. But it's good you recognize, and it's good that you care, and that would be my suggestion. If it is actually something that is a disturbance, then share it with someone who you have faith in that can help you. Hare Krishna. Anybody else? Do you know the prayers that we say when we're praying? Om Gyanatimirandasya, I'm up to. Okay. Okay.
So the last sentence of the purport is right where he left off, talking about the sincere devotee.
Uh-huh.
And it says that in due course of time, he will return to the shelter of the lotus feet of Lord Sri
Haribo.
Caitanya and will thus have his perpetual association. And so when Priyavata is given the instruction from Lord Brahma, he's saying, be situated in your original position as an eternal servant of the Lord. If you carry out his orders, you will never fall, even in the midst of material enjoyment. So it shows that material enjoyment, if you're trying to enjoy it, you've left the lotus feet of
You
Lord
what?
Sri.
If you try to enjoy it?
Yeah.
You what?
You've left the lotus feet of Lord Sri Caitanya. So in the context of the story of the Bhagavatam where this is happening, why is Priyavata given this instruction to go enjoy material enjoyment? And
Yeah, his
leave the lotus feet?
enjoyment is that he simply utilizes everything in the service of the Lord. The enjoyment of being an instrument to give pleasure to Krishna blows away even liberation, not to speak of sense gratification. So his enjoyment is not in lust, it's not in exploitiveness of the resources of Krishna, Bhoktaram Yagatapasam, Sarvaloka Maheshwaram. He knows Krishna is the enjoyer, proprietor, and my best friend. He's utilizing everything he has, body, mind, family, assets, the world, in the service of the Lord. So that is his pleasure. But on the externally, it looks like he's enjoying the highest standards of sense gratification. Pundarik Vijayanidhi is the perfect example. Fooled even Gadadhar Pandit. All the accessories of sense gratification and his apparent absorption in them, appreciation of them, but it's all external. The consciousness was seeing everything in relationship to Krishna, utilizing everything for his pleasure. And like I said, until we come to that level of spiritual realizations, we're not going to completely understand it, but we can intellectually conceive and appreciate. So it's a world of difference. It's not lust, but it was love as the medium through which he was experiencing the pleasures of the world in his service.
Is he still factually taking a risk by leaving the lotus feet of Sri Caitanya? Because they're saying...
No, that's what Krishna's told him to do. You do this. You go, like the Sankirtan devotees, they hear this kind of purport from Srila Prabhupada. What assurance there is. If I do this service for you, I'll be protected. I just have to stay fixed in the service, in the motive, proper motivation. If I stay fixed, and then if there's some effect, then you adjust. We're not foolhardy. We heard not too long ago when the devotees are staying out late, not waking up, and for Mangal Artik or whatever. And I mean, devotees used to go into bars and preach and what have you. But you adjust. If it's not favorable, you don't go there. You don't do it.
If we take shelter in the lotus flower of the navel of Vishnu, then we're okay?
Yeah, follow the instructions of Guru and Vaishnavas.
All right.
Definitely okay. It just gets better all the time.
Jai.
I have a
Hey, Prakash.
Hare
Hare Krishna.
So, does this similarly apply to Lord Shiva, because he is like the husband of Maya and the material?
He's the perfect example of the Vaishnava. My goodness, his soulmate, his wife, his eternal consort, his material energy. But he's not trying to enjoy her. He's simply trying to please Krishna. If you can help me serve Krishna, hey, thank you so much. Let's help those we can, gradually or directly, to surrender to Krishna. That's the real desire. That's why Lord Caitanya, when he was traveling in South India, there was one mountain he went to, and Parvati and Shiva were there, in the form of a Brahmin and Brahmini, and he spent a few days discussing Krishna Katha and the nectar of sharing Krishna consciousness. Very dear friend and servant of the Lord. Yes. Thank you very much for your patience, your attention, your association. Srila Prabhupada ki, Grantaraj Srimad Bhagavatam ki, Samaveda Gaura Bhakta Vrinda ki.